Hey guys, I'm in North Vancouver, checking out an awesome view of the Vancouver high-rises over there. Actually very close to OHM's headquarters. OHM is a Canadian brand. They've been around since 2005, so we're talking about 12 years just refining and refining. They use the Bionic System, and this is my favorite in the series. It's a D-Series. Super high torque, up to 50 Newton meters, which for a hub motor is quite impressive. It's very quiet because it's gearless direct drive. It offers regenerative properties, and it's just, you know, just the way that it works. Like, you see how wide it is, but also how narrow it is. They were able to dial up the torque characteristic without adding weight. And a lot of times when you're increasing the power and the torque, you're also increasing heat, and so there's more air inside, and this is like a composite plastic shell, and that allows it to stay relatively cool while you're riding. And you might also notice that the spokes here, standard 14 gauge, 32 holes on these wheels, they connect all the way down into the hub versus the edge of the hub motor casing. So a lot of times hub motors are a lot smaller. Most companies use the gearless direct drive motors, which is kind of fine, but there's gears, interacting there. You don't get regen, and you're just getting phenomenal power. So it's 500 watt nominal, 750 watt peak on that. The battery pack, this is the new BionX semi-integrated design, 48 volts, 11.6 amp hours, 7.4 pounds. It's not too heavy for that sort of, high capacity that you want when you're using a more powerful motor like this. And I think it looks great. It's the kind of battery that you can easily take off of the bike. You can charge it on or off the frame. Here is the charging port on the left-hand side. Again, it's really clean. Blends in. I'm gonna go ahead and insert the key, twist, and then the battery just slides out like that to the side. Here's what it looks like. I didn't see, there's not like an obvious handle at the top like Bosch or some of the other battery designs I've seen, but you can still get your hand around it and carry it pretty easily. There's a little bit of an indentation on the side. For someone who's a commuter, that could be a big deal. You might ride this to work, park it in the garage, and then want to take the battery off. I usually take the key out like this first, and then make sure it clicks just like that. So anyway, you could take this up to your desk. You can also take the display panel off, and that beeping we heard a minute ago was the auto off. So after a few minutes, it automatically turns off. The neat thing is, this mounting system, it really reminds me of like Garmin's and stuff. You just twist it on, it's very easy. Tiny display, backlit color, really beautiful. But the control ring over here has almost all of the same necessary readouts. So we've got a battery indicator, as well as 4 levels of assist, 4 levels of regen. This is one of the few bikes that you can actually capture some electricity. And it's not a lot of electricity, and people always ask when they're new to e-bikes, like, can I pedal to charge it? And it's like, yeah, but you're gonna waste so much money and calories buying food that was trucked in, that you digested, that you then sweated and heated up to finally convert to electricity. That's not really what this is about. It's about saving some wear on your brake calipers, brake pads. It's about giving yourself a little bit more workout. Maybe you don't live somewhere where it's so hilly. You're like in Vancouver proper versus up in these mountains over here. The regen might help slow you down a hill, but it might also kind of simulate a hill if you live in the city. So I like it. It's really cool, and that removability on the display complements the removable battery very well, because you park at a rack and then you can keep people from tampering with the entire thing. So while we're on the topic, I want to talk about the charger as well. It's over here. This thing's pretty amazing. It's like 1 pound, super compact, and it puts out 3.45 amps, whereas a lot of the cheaper chargers, they weigh like at least a pound and a half. They're bigger, they're bulkier, and they're 2 amps. So this is going to charge faster, and that's important when you have a battery that's high capacity like we're looking at here. So I just jumped right into all the specs because I think that's the first thing I noticed. This is a little bit bigger. It stands out when you see this. We're riding around town here and people are like, oh, electric bike, and they're excited about it. But that is, it's a little bit more obvious. Also, it spreads a bit of the weight back towards the rear. You'll notice the battery is a bit more forward. I think overall it's a fairly balanced system weight-wise. And for a hardtail like this, something that you're going to be riding in an urban environment, it's called the Urban after all, I think it's a pretty good fit. I love that this frame comes in 4 different sizes. I'm looking at the medium 18.5, but they have a smaller one and then 2 larger sizes because the founder, who's over here, hey Michael, he's a taller guy, right? So we were talking about having different sizes and needing to dial in the fit. And this is a bit more of a premium product. You know, you're spending more, $35.99 for this bike, but you're also, you know, you're getting a warranty, you're getting some high precision parts. And I'm going to jump back into that. I might come back to you in a minute, but I wanted to use him as a prop because, you know, the fit, it becomes important. And I'm 5'9", I'm sort of average size. It doesn't concern me as much. Most bikes fit me. And there, of course, is some adjustability here with the seat post. This is 30.9 millimeters, by the way. And in case you swap that out. So some of those touch points that I was referring to, we've got an OHM branded Ergon SMC4 Sport Gel, pretty comfortable saddle. You've got Ergon GP1 locking grips, really comfortable. TRP Zurich hydraulic disc brakes with a finger adjuster right here. So you can bring those levers in or out. Let's say you're maybe a more petite rider. You're gonna appreciate that deep kind of a angled top tube to lower the standover height, and then being able to bring in those levers. Or perhaps you're cold, because it does get kind of rainy and cold around here. Sometimes you're wearing gloves. You can adjust that on the fly. You don't need a tool. You could even swap this with a friend and get it all set up. Here are the Rotors, 180 millimeter front and rear. A real nice upgrade here. The Rotors are just high precision. We've got quad piston calipers. Gonna do a great job dissipating heat. The bike, it actually isn't as heavy as I was thinking it might be, considering it has aluminum alloy fenders and a rack, and then the hub motor. You know, it's like 55.7 pounds for the medium that I'm looking at here. And I just love that. This is definitely a purpose-built bike. You can see all the cables are internally routed. This is a tapered, sort of a custom head tube or steerer tube up here, but tapered meaning 1.125 to 1.5 inches. So it's a little bit stronger, potentially lighter, but that's more custom. You can see as well on the stem, the handlebar clamp, this is 31.8 millimeters, and they've got a Supernova E3 e-bike V6S, 165 lumens on this. It points where you steer, can be aimed down, and it doesn't collide with this display at all. It doesn't rattle. The bike is extremely quiet when you actually start riding. We've got a rack time rack back here. Pretty standard gauge tubing, 25 kilograms, that's 55 pounds. And then an E3 Supernova 3 LED rear light as well. So you've got integrated lights. Everything's running off that main battery pack. And I'd asked Michael earlier, like, well, do you have a USB port? You know, that's something that we're seeing on a lot of the cheaper bikes actually have like a little USB thing up here. And he said, yeah, we have an option. See, there's a hole here. They can wire in a little mount with a standard size USB port right there. So you could run with your phone. They even have a smartphone app for this. So you can operate it with the display. You can operate it without that display, plus, minus, there's the throttle built in, or you can use your smartphone and potentially even mount to a very similar mount up here. You've got plenty of space for that. I love that. We've got kind of a nice little bell, a little bit of an upgrade. One thing I'm not a huge fan of is the kickstand design. It's center mounted, and of course if you back the bike up, it collides. You can even see some scraping on the kickstand there. But you also see there are cables here going to that motor. They're fairly well protected, tucked away. And then you've got the big disc brake rotor, a quad piston caliper. It's you kind of like, well, where would you mount the kickstand back here? I'm okay with this trade-off. The kickstand does pretty well. It stays out of the way, and it's not like bouncing and making a lot of noise when we ride. You can't have everything. But you do get magnesium Welgo MG6 pedals with adjustable height pins. These are spectacular. Super lightweight, great surface area and traction. Custom cranks right here. This is a sealed bottom bracket, hollow spindle, so it's going to be a little bit lighter. We've got a 48 tooth chain ring up here with an alloy, I call it a bash guard, but it's like a chain ring protector, and a plastic guide so your chain shouldn't bounce off, especially relevant if you're using a throttle mode. And then 11 to 36 Shimano Dior XT with the Shadow Plus, so that's that little lever here, one-way clutch. Put it in the up position, and it's not supposed to bounce back as much. So as you're riding, see how it can kind of flex forward a little bit? You need some of that as you're shifting through the gears, but it's not going to do it as much as if this was turned off. It's a lot looser. They do have a plastic slap guard for that right chainstay, just to keep that paint nice, some matte gray. Really clean looking bike. Definitely a lot to appreciate on this bike. Great drivetrain, 10 gears. And when you're shifting gears, unlike with a mid-drive, you don't really have to worry about it. You're not having all those extra forces on the chain. It is an upgraded chain as well. The rear axle, 12 millimeter. It's not like a through axle, it's a proprietary BionX axle that has a torque sensor integrated. It works very well. There's a very smooth power delivery or power curve as you're pedaling. It's not just on or off like those basic cadence sensors. And OHM does have some, they're more like hardtail mountain bike type of models. So for the city, I mean, this is just, it's plenty of precision and fluid responsiveness. It's also very capable for off-road. So I think you're kind of getting, it's just an excellent experience, one that is supported by those higher end parts, including, we've got an SR Sun Tour fork up here, 100 millimeter travel. We've got a clicker compression with complete lockout. It's an air fork, so you can adjust the sort of the stiffness based on your weight, sag it correctly. And then we've got rebound adjust at the bottom. You might notice there's also a through axle up here, so 15 millimeters, a little bit stiffer. It's going to support higher speeds and maybe even higher weights. If you see the Alex rims right here, they've got those reinforcement eyelets. That's going to give it a little bit more strength as well, so you don't crack the rims if you're going at high speed and maybe going over some bumps, or maybe you weigh a little bit more, you've got something on the rack. Schwalbe Big Ben was last year, and now they have Plus, so that has Performance Line Green Guard, more puncture protection, which is really nice. It's no fun to change a flat on electric bike, especially with a hub motor. We don't have quick release in the rear. You do have, of course, just a standard, I think it's M6 bolt right there you can take out. But because it's just a little bit more work, you have to come over here with these cables, disconnect. There is a disconnect point. It works well enough, right? But it's not as easy as a traditional bicycle. So that's one area where they really did a good job, is upgrading these tires, snakeskin, and they've got that reflective sidewall stripe. So everything you'd want for safety: headlight, rear light, high quality stuff, reflective tires, a lighter, even the paint job, that's going to be a little bit more visible than the black frames that I see a lot from other companies. A bit of a rise in the bar along with those ergonomic grips. 4 spacers right here, 10 millimeter, and then a 5 millimeter on top. So it does bring it up. This creates more of an upright ride. Sort of reminds me of a lighter weight, maybe even more dynamic Stromer in the sense that, you know, you've got this throttle option. I haven't really even jumped in on it, so maybe we should do that if we press the power button right here on this power circle for a couple seconds. Comes to life. It is color and backlit. I realize we're in harsh lighting conditions right here because it's so sunny out. And then this is the basic display. So it's got these 4 levels of assist. So if I press plus over here, and 4 levels of regen. So if I go down, see how it turns orange? Very cool how that works. And then if you pull the brake lever on the right, there is a motor inhibitor, a regen activator from BionX. It's only on the right brake lever, so I suppose that's a cost savings, and it also keeps this cleaner up here. There's not wires like everywhere. Maybe that's a limitation from TRP. I love that it has it though. That's back to like the regen thing. You can activate it in one of 2 ways, with the brake lever or the levels of regen that we just explored. Speed in the middle, miles per hour. 10 bar battery infographic right there. That's great. And they have battery percentage on another readout that I'm going to get to. And then if you press the left or right keys right here, it gives you a little bit more information. So trip timer, trip distance, average speed, clock, setup. Setup is cool. Once you're there, if you hold the left key, you can go in there and change units and make some other adjustments. This is the general or basic default setup of the OHM bikes is class 2. So that means it has throttle activation. It's that little variable speed throttle right here, as well as pedal assist, up to 20 miles per hour. But it can be switched to class 3, and they do have the sticker set up. So depending on what class you get, this one's set up as class 2. You could turn this into a speed pedelec, and for people who want to go faster, maybe you're commuting every day and you have a long ride, I think that's a really cool feature. So this bike is very dynamic in that sense. You have a throttle and you have up to 28 mile per hour assist. You have to ask them when you order it, but it's worth thinking about and checking into. So we're back here. I'm going to go ahead and hold the right key this time, and it goes to the advanced basic display where you've kind of got a power chart on the right and a regen chart on the left. It just gives you a little bit more feedback without cluttering things up too much. And then this is Michael's favorite display right here. This is like the trip stats readout. There's a lot more. It's kind of advanced. It doesn't have as many infographics, but you can see your speed, your trip timer, your clock, your odometer, your trip distance, your assist level, your average speed, assist percentage, and battery percentage. And I love battery percentage. For a bike that doesn't really give you a range estimation, being able to track more precisely how much battery you have left is key. So I feel like all around, just upgrades, right? And maybe the proof is in the pudding when we get out there and ride, but I want to compliment the fact that they also have bottle cage bosses there on the seat tube. That's something a lot of the cheaper electric bikes just don't think about. Even that chain guide and the hollow spindle, and just there's a lot there. Michael, is there anything else you care to add that was just like a high-end part that it's like, oh yeah, we put extra thought into this?
We spent a lot of time working on the Fender design for our new line of bikes. The Fender, you can see, is integrated with the rear carry rack.
Yeah, that
it's
keeps
also
it quiet.
Semi-integrated with the frame.
Oh.
And what that does is give better lateral support. So if you're carrying really heavy panniers, then when you go around a corner, you won't have as much flex in the rack.
That's awesome. I didn't even notice that. I was looking down here. It looks like the cabling for that light is pretty well tucked in and protected.
Yep, that's integrated into the rack time fenders. So there's a channel in the top of the fender which we can have the light cabling integrated into.
Cool. And there's even a little spot here for adding your own bungee cables if you wanted, or connecting the panniers. A lot of them have like a clip right there. So yeah, I mean, ultimately you're kind of getting like a 15 millimeter, 12 millimeter thru-axle setup, even though this is something a little proprietary for Bionics. Drivetrain's great, removable battery. I don't know, I feel like we've been through all of it, but there are a couple of extras, like these extra features. We already talked about the charger, but they do sell a body float as an upgrade. And this is really nice because you can turn it from kind of a hardtail feeling to more of a full suspension feeling and get yourself some comfort there. I really like these, and you can see there are a couple different springs in there. The different colors allow you to dial it in for your body weight. And then up here at the front, if we kind of think about locking this at a bike rack, you don't have to worry so much about the back, but we do have that quick release on the front and the seat, and especially if you have a body float, that's an expensive part. So they do sell an upgrade. You get this ABUS Bordeaux light. It doesn't use a key, it's a combo lock. I would use that and maybe get the front tube and that front wheel, and then get like a seat leash, so there's just a cable that could connect just to protect this if it's at the bike rack. I think that's about it. Might be time to hop on this thing and take a little ride. So here we go. We've got really bright light on that data view, and it's looking good. It's kind of a rainbow. I don't know. I was asking Michael about that, and he said, yeah, it's transflective. So I guess Nokia was a pioneer making these displays that even in bright light you could see, and then of course it is backlit, so at night you can see it as well. I think I'm gonna arrow over to the more basic display. There we go. And take it all the way up to the highest level. I'm gonna pedal hard and just try to listen for that motor, see if you hear anything. Totally zipped up to speed. I'm trying to be careful because we've got some little ones running around here. Super smooth. This is definitely my favorite hub motor out there right now. Even though it looks a little bit bigger and maybe wind could catch it from the side, and it's kind of like, well, hub motor versus mid-drive, the experience of this is excellent. It's definitely quieter than Bosch, and I don't have to worry about shifting gears. It feels more like a bicycle in that sense. I'm gonna take it over this grass here and listen for fender wobbling. The only rattling I hear is this bell, actually. Just kind of hear the internals. The fenders are just rock solid. It's a great feeling. Like you could kind of take this wherever and it's right there with you. The bike feels tight. It's actually especially stiff for me right now because I think the air pressure, maybe the rebound is dialed up in that suspension fork, and I'm just not very heavy, so I'm not getting as much travel. Got two-way lever so I can shift gears by pressing forward or pulling back. There's that display again, a little stop test. From here you should be able to just listen for that motor and watch as I shift. It's not going to have the same kind of like clunk clunk like banging that you do get from some mid drives, and I like both. You know, everything has its place, but yeah, I think this setup in particular is really nice. I'm going to do the throttle. Those brakes are just awesome. When you get a quad piston setup like this, you can really apply more pressure to like a larger surface area, and that has two effects. The larger surface area helps it stay cool, but it also, of course, stops you faster. At 180 millimeter rotors, that used to be like mountain bike level spec. So on a road bike like this, or kind of an urban bike, you might think, oh, it's overkill, but you are dealing with a bike that's a little bit heavier and potentially higher speeds. That 28 miles per hour, you can really get flying. When climbing, because of that 48 tooth chain ring, it's a little bit bigger. It's definitely optimized for speed, you know, and this whole 28 mile per hour thing. I mentioned the whole 2 mile per hour start earlier, so you know, I'm not pedaling or anything, but I'm going like 10 miles per hour, and then I press that throttle and just juice it. Look how quickly it goes up to speed. That's spectacular. There's a real fluid, powerful, like get up and go that this bike offers, in large part because of that diameter that we were talking about on the hub motor. It's bigger, yeah, and you notice it visually a little bit more, but you also definitely notice it power-wise. And before we finish, I wanted to call out the wheel diameter again, or rather the tire diameter. These are 27.5 by 2, so you end up approximating like a 700C or a 28-inch wheel, and you get that rolling efficiency, you get that lowered attack angle, so you just cruise right over little bumps and you don't notice as much. And there's also a decent spread on the PSI rating, so you know, 35 to 70 PSI, and you can take it down a little bit if you're willing to compromise on the efficiency and you just want to dial up the comfort. Keep in mind, if you're a really heavy rider, you do want to keep the PSI relatively high so you don't get pinch flats in those tubes. Michael, I had a great time out here. It's perfect. I guess it's time to go. We got the ferry taking off over there. It's just a beautiful day in Vancouver, and it's always nice to have a couple of models side by side. That's your personal bike, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the extra large frame and the Urban model.
Do you mind hopping on it and taking off? It's fun to show. You could do a ride by and a brake test. Nice, man. Yeah, this is great. I think that's about it, guys. For the full write-up, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Of course, ask any questions you have. Try to help you out. Have fun out there, and especially at high speed, ride safe. We got a few of the different Urban models here. This one they've retrofitted with adjustable angle stem, which of course you could do on your own. And the displays just look a lot brighter now that we're inside. You can see the backlighting going on, and I wanted to show you that little mini display. So there's the battery indicator with 5 ticks and 4 little white dots there. And if we arrow it down and then see how they flash, that means it's in regen mode. So, and then of course on the display you'd also see it with the red. That's kind of cool. And maybe the lights too. Yeah, super bright. Awesome. And then there's the data view. See it looking, it's pretty cool. It's a great setup overall. I think Michael upgraded his light to a Supernova M99, just ultra bright. Gotta love that.